Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to what is this? Episode 36 of the Hideout. Wow, this is it's been a lot of these episodes, a long time. So really excited to be here. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse. We're going to have an awesome panel today. We're waiting on one more guest to join, and then we will jump in. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was the switch to X or maybe I just haven't updated my phone, but we don't have the music on this one, so we will sit in silence, or we can just chit chat. But how's everybody doing tonight? Thank you all for joining.
Doing well. Hope everyone's having a good time, and thanks for having us up here. I see some Shrapnel folks in the crowd. Relaxed RPG, Captain Jaxie, thanks for showing up. Excited to chat with all you guys.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I think Justin's down there. I think he is JD. So if we can pull him up, I think maybe I'm not sure if he's who we're waiting on, but
Yes. Let me
Waiting
pull
on
him
the
up.
egg.
yes.
Yeah. Let's get him up here. I was looking for the X Prize account. That's why I missed the egg, but there it is. All right, cool. So it looks like we have everybody then, and we've got Spencer. All right, cool. So we're good to go. For those of you who haven't been to the Hideout before, every week we do a Twitter Spaces, or I guess I don't even know what they're calling them now, X Spaces, on the state of the Metaverse and gaming in Web3. And so we have some awesome panelists like we do today, and we kind of go through all the fun stuff that's happening, ask some interesting questions, ask some individual questions. And but what we do is we start off with introductions. So, for those of you, like I said before, that I am the founder and CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse. Satoshiverse is a blockchain-themed superhero universe that we've been building for about the last 3 years. I'm going to pin a little thread to the top of this post for those of you who are interested in learning more. And anyone on the panel can feel free to do the same with any kind of news or threads or information that you have. Feel free to pin it up at the top. But I will. I'll pass it to our guests because they are the reason that we're here. So why don't we start with Jin from Mad World? Could you give us a quick introduction of yourself, of what you're building at Mad World, and yeah, take it away.
Hey, thanks for the intro. I'm Jin from Mad World. I'm actually an advisor, and I work with a triple A studio in Japan. So we've been signing a lot of IPs to bring those IPs to the world of Web3. And also some of the things that we do is really connecting NFT to a physical world. So those are the things that we do. Thanks a lot for inviting. And I'm a little bit not too familiar on this because I was told to join yesterday from Kelly because I think she's on the flight. So I might not know everything, but I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you for jumping on last minute. I promise we'll try to keep it mostly high level, so I'm sure you'll be able to give some good insight from your perspective at the studio. So thanks for jumping on. How about we kick it over to Shrapnel? Can you give us an introduction?
Hey everyone, nice to be here tonight. Shrapnel is a first-person extraction shooter built on an Avalanche subnet. Everything in the game is moddable, and so everything from the skins to the set pieces in the maps to the individual maps will be able to be modded and shared with the community. Our hope is that the majority of the maps that end up getting played are actually built by the community. We've got a AAA studio that we've built out of Seattle, about 60 people on site, and then another 40 or 50 spread across the world. People that worked on stuff like Halo, Counter-Strike, Blacklight Retribution, if anyone played that. we have like half of the Bioshock Infinite creative leadership team. So super exciting time to be around. My name's Tony. I look after Web3 marketing and economy slash in-game like merchandising. So the things that we offer, like skins and attachments for your guns and stuff like that, and how much they cost, is what I do. So I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Amazing, amazing. Happy to have you here. Really excited to dive into these topics. I saw what you guys were building. I think it was at Consensus first, and then maybe at 3XP. But I've seen the game a couple times. It looks awesome. Would definitely recommend everybody who hasn't checked it out, check it out. It looks like a really, really high quality game that I'm very excited for personally. So let's jump over to X Prize. I don't know if Tara or Justin, you guys want to take it away. Tell us a little bit about X Prize, and obviously feel free to both introduce yourselves. But yeah, definitely would love to hear more about X Prize.
Justin, you want to go ahead and give us a little high level intro about the foundation?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us both. I'm Justin Diangona, and I manage strategic partnerships and impact at X Prize. And for those who aren't familiar with X Prize is a way of kind of gamifying innovation to solve the world's biggest challenges. We do that by designing and then operating multi-year, really large-scale competitions with big prize purses to focus the attention of the world's innovators on doing things like solving climate change or extending the human health span or going to space. And I work closely with Tara on figuring out how we can bring in Web3 technologies to our work and leverage them for impact.
Sweet. And I'm Tara Naomi Engelbart, and I lead Web3 at X Prize, and started my career and life as an artist, a musician, and that's been the majority of my career. And then in 2020, I started exploring different Web3 solutions for sharing music after I'd left my record label, and found myself completely immersed in this world of Web3 and blockchain, and started advising companies and releasing other art projects of my own and for other artists, and ended up joining X Prize at the beginning of 2022 officially. And my job there is to find ways and create initiatives and find different intersections of the work that we do and the Web3 and blockchain space. A lot of that falls into sort of a refi kind of vibe, but also we'll talk about it. We'll talk more about it later. But there's a lot of the work we're doing intersects in many ways with a lot of the work that's happening in this space, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm sorry I didn't have a little more notice. If I had a little more notice, I would have been able to probably pull the main X Prize account in, but I did pin a tweet at the top, which is to our Discord, but that also will help folks find the organization X Prize on Twitter in the pinned tweet. So thank you so much for having us here.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you for joining on short notice. I know we had a different time schedule for this one, so we had to shuffle some things around. So I appreciate everybody jumping on. And I got to learn a little bit more about X Prize this past weekend in beautiful Barbados. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys are doing more and share that with everybody else. So really happy that you guys could make it. And then let's go over to Spencer. Why don't you give us a quick introduction to yourself and then take us into the agenda?
Sure thing. Thanks, Nick. So my name is Spencer Vogel. I've been working with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment for the last 2 years on the business development and strategy side of things, and I host the Twitter Spaces that we do every week. Just getting into the format first, we do a question for everyone in the group. For that, I'll call on somebody to start, and then everyone else feel free to just jump in and try to turn it into a little bit of a fluid conversation. And then we'll move into some individual questions for each of you guys, and then we'll have some more questions for the group at the end. And then for everyone listening, we do a live giveaway. So we're going to be giving away a Satoshiverse collectible. We're just going to give you access to play our game. at the end of the space. So make sure you stick around and listen live so that you can actually win that. So getting on to the first question, and Tony, why don't you start us out with this one? So gaming has been touted as the game-changing application of blockchain technology that will bring the masses into Web3. Do you agree with that sentiment, and why?
I agree with the sentiment and not so much the phrasing. I think about technology like Xbox Live, and the Xbox Live came into existence as Halo was developed, right? And there was really a hand in hand technology partnership with Microsoft in that studio. And so, I think that these technologies that we're using will continue to advance. People will find new utilities for the blockchain and new ways um, that using NFT and blockchain technology can enhance gameplay in the same way that Microsoft recognized that networked play over the internet, despite at the time what was a lackluster infrastructure across the United States, was a worthwhile investment. But no one really talks about that boring shit, right? The fact that Microsoft had to do a whole bunch of stuff and waste a whole bunch of money, light a whole bunch of money on fire before this networked play really became a profitable enterprise for them, right? Like the Xbox division at Microsoft was notoriously non-profitable, right? And I think that we're gonna see that, right? We're gonna see people. Hopefully, Shrapnel has done a good job with it, but I think we're gonna see games adopting the technology in such a way that makes it not feel as intimidating as it does now, right? Like if you think back to multiplayer gameplay before Xbox Live, you had things like TeamSpeak and or not Trello. There was I forget Trello. I think there were like 3 or 4 different chat apps that you could use, and people were talking, all over different stuff, and connecting with people to play games was really hard. But no one really talks about like the network technology that some dude at Bungie, working in the server group built out, and that's really what enabled all that cool shit. And I think that's the way technology or the blockchain technology is going to advance the gaming industry. But I also do think it's going to lead to mass adoption of the technology because gaming is a billions of human industry.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that for me, NFTs are really at their core an infrastructure for digital asset ownership, and I don't think that there is a more salient example of digital asset ownership and trading and rights and all the things that we get in the NFT space than the example that's currently existed for probably 2 decades in the gaming space, just with kind of the air quotes around ownership, right? I think, for a long time, people have quote unquote owned items in games and gotten familiar with what that could mean without actually owning anything. And I think that's a significant point. And I think that NFTs potentially create the infrastructure or could be the basis for an infrastructure of digital asset ownership, and real rights that are attributable to that, and all the legal mumbo jumbo that would have to happen in order for people to really own digital assets becomes possible with NFTs, right? And so, if you combine the biggest digital asset market by orders of magnitude in the gaming market with a true ownership structure for digital assets, I think at the very minimum it's significant. I think whether it is the game-changing thing that makes it a mass onboarding event is going to have a lot to do with whether the mainstream gaming community really starts to understand the use case and what ownership could mean as things progress forward, and whether these major developers, these AAA studios, find business use cases for the technology and therefore incorporate it on the back end of their games. So I think that has to happen in order for the mass onboarding. I don't think it's going to necessarily be a bunch of indie studios that somehow suck the entire gaming population into the space. I think it's going to take true adoption by the development side first, the developer side first, And that's going to come, as the tooling gets better and everything there. But I think it at least has the potential to be that onboarding event, because it's essentially just taking something that already exists and adding an infrastructure layer below it, for true asset ownership. So,
Jen or Justin or Tara, do you have anything to add there?
I do.
Me,
Happy to jump in. I mean, to me, it's like, I think the mass onboarding happens after we no longer know that we're using anything different. Like, it's when it becomes a seamless experience, and the integration is so complete that, like, when you interact with anything in the digital world at this point, in the web 2, with web 2 tools, or like with just e-commerce tools or anything, you don't think about the technology underneath it. You just do what you need to do. You charge your credit card, or you go to a website, or you order something, or you buy something, whatever. And so I think that, a lot of the innovation happening now is to create that seamless experience. And once we create that seamless experience, people don't even realize, like, oh, I'm using this, or I'm using this, I'm using blockchain. Like, people don't want to know that they're using, interacting with blockchain technology. Like, no, they just want to play the game. They want to, like, own the asset. They want to do whatever it is that they want to do. And the best use case is when you don't notice you're using anything. It's just smooth. So I think that's the point when the masses come in. Well, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think I can add a little bit to it from sort of AAA studio from Japan, like Sega Sammy, Square Enix, um, Bandai Namco, or Pokemon, all those companies, right? And first thing we usually discuss really is, because assets that we offer on the existing games, people still can feel like they're owning it. Um, so, what is really the true value that we're offering to the gamers or players, right? So, um, there are two things that we usually discuss. One is really what is this, you know, true digital ownership means, and also the second is really the interoperability. So how we can really create interoperable games, or like bringing creator economy to it, or bringing community to it. So those are the things that, because I'm really tied up with that sort of the, studios, and I plan the games together with them. I bring, what Web3 enables, and most of the time that I get asked really is, you know, they've got the concept, but how we really, you know, bring this to life, and what is really the value that we can offer to the players. And I think once, because a lot of games, I think 10 to 15 games are going to be released, whether it's only NFT or gamify, in this coming 1 or 2 years from Japan. And I think those are the things that we can really look into. For, I mean, if AAA studio sees the value, and then they will definitely create seamless experience, and that's really where when the mass adoption starts, kicking in.
yeah, I think that's right. I think that we there's an interesting kind of dynamic here, right? Where it's because we've worked with some studios as well, and talked to some of the bigger IPs. I think there's kind of this circular conundrum, right, where we have to build it before anyone is, convinced that it's useful and there's money there, and I think that in order for it to look useful, a bunch of people have to be using it, right, and making money and whatnot. And we saw how quickly brands came into the space on kind of the art and collectibles side as soon as there was something to be had in that space. And I think gaming generally just has bigger roadblocks, right? You have to spend lots of money and have big teams and really work hard in order to make good games. And so it's not like it's not the easiest thing for a brand to just jump in. But I think that once, like I think everybody on the panel said, once the infrastructure is there, once it feels seamless, I think that's kind of that inflection point where people say, okay, well, now no one's going to experience a negative side of this. Now what's the upside, right? What's the positive? What kind of great, we're giving, consumers a right to own assets and really, have these ownership rights. But what is it that makes this more interesting for us? And I think that's where these kind of unique use cases of NFTs and gamification come in. And just on this panel, we have three completely different approaches to gamification of, whether it's experiences or social goods or, IP, kind of traditional comic IP or manga IP, or if it's, like what Shrapnel and Arse are building, which is just a pure video game experience. I think that there's so many different ways that NFTs can be gamified. And frankly, I think that, there is an intersection there. And I think that if there is going to be a mass onboarding event, it'll be through some sort of gamified experience. I'm not sure if it'll be through, traditional experiences, but I think just generally speaking, there's so much potential for doing some interesting things in a gamified way that it really lends itself well to the technology. So yeah, definitely agree with everything that was just said. Yeah, Spencer, if you want to.
Yeah, Justin, I wanted to give you a chance to add something if you wanted to before we moved on to the next questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I agree with much of what's already been said. I think that from my point of view, I would say that maybe the answer is no, that gaming might not be what brings Web3 to the masses. And I think some of the other applications of Web3 technology that relate to, from the XPRIZE point of view, we spend a lot of time thinking about what are the world's biggest problems, how could you solve them? And I think a lot of the solutions that emerge will have a Web3 component. And that when you solve people's problems, and as Tara said, when you kind of seamlessly integrate those technologies into the solutions, and it really starts to affect people's lives, it just becomes part of the fabric of how folks live and do business. And, things like, for instance, I was talking to an executive that does sustainability work at a big corporation, and she was saying that their company doesn't have an accurate sense of the footprint of their supply chain. And they want to be able to tell people, here's how our business practices affect the environment. They can't do that now because they don't have records that show the whole picture of the traceability of their products. And blockchain technologies could help.
Are you guys able to hear me? Not sure if Justin.
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
we
lost
Sorry,
Justin.
I don't know. I don't know where it cut out. I think my headphones died. But yeah, basically to wrap it up, that this company has a big enough footprint where they buy 2% of the world's wood. So if they start instituting supply chain traceability tools based on the blockchain, that affects all the people involved in the life of that forest product. And I think from my point of view, those are the sorts of things that will bring Web3 to the masses. And as Tara said, just kind of make it part of the fabric of our lives and how we do everything.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So moving into our individual questions now. The first one is for Tony here. So I'm curious, how is Shrapnel bringing narrative storytelling to its game? And then how are you connecting the comic books that you guys have created into the ecosystem?
Absolutely. So the first part of the question is how are we integrating lore and how are we building out our lore? We have our founders. There's these 6 individuals that were at HBO after having spent decades in the game industry, and they were all making games based on IPs like Foundation and Snow Crash and these IPs that HBO had brought to their audience. And then AT&T bought HBO and decided that HBO wasn't going to make video games anymore. And so these guys spun off and raised a bunch of money to start building Shrapnel, And all that to say, the DNA of the organization is really rooted in this word that I hate, transmedia. But really, the core of Shrapnel is this story about this event that happens when an asteroid hits the moon and the moon shatters and chaos ensues. There's just like, it's a post-apocalyptic world, but it's like 20 years in the future after the event had happened. So like the world is starting to settle again, and people are like getting coffee in the morning and bringing their kids to school, but there's these large dead zones where mercenaries are fighting each other for this, very scarce but valuable compound. And all of that, that story was mapped out and created before we started writing any code. And one of the things that's really cool is, as a function of all that time that they spent at HBO, they have some really interesting relationships with people who got really invested in this idea of making games based on their IP. So I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the author Neil Stephenson, the guy who wrote Snow Crash. It's a prolific sci-fi book, but he's like friends with our CEO. He just hangs out in our office. I see him like twice a month, and he like gave us feedback on all of our lore. I wrote one of the comic books, and this guy was giving me feedback on my writing as it was coming together, and like just super super cool to see a studio that is really creating a product that could stand independent of lore. Right, it's a shooter product, but we've really invested a lot of time and effort into the world of Shrapnel, again, to the extent that we just released our second season of comic books. We've got 11 comics now. And the way we've integrated those into our ecosystem is our operator holders. That's our Genesis collection. They all get the comics for free. We'll airdrop this next batch to them here pretty soon. And then those comics we will use as entitlements in the video game to unlock stuff that I won't talk about right now. But you can imagine cosmetics or early access to things, or access, like when we have a shared space that people can access, like we're calling them safe houses. You'll probably be able to hang your comics up as posters and whatnot. So really integrating them through both the NFT, like collectible part of our ecosystem, giving them out as NFTs, and then more tangibly they'll be able to be expressed in the game further down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, love what you guys are working on. Your booth was really, really awesome at San Diego Comic-Con a couple weeks ago, and it was great to see the ash cans that you guys had there as well, showcasing the story. So yeah, keep up the good work and everything you guys are working on. Excited to see where everything goes. So the next question is to, I guess, Justin or Tara or both of you guys. So how do you think Web3 technology can be used to make a positive global impact, and what are some of the things that X Prize is doing to achieve that?
Maybe I can kick that off and just say a bit more about what X Prize does and some first thoughts, and then pass to you, Tara, to say more. So you can think about X Prize's work as having like a few distinct phases. So the first phase is trying to figure out what the future should look like and imagining a vision for a better world in whatever area we're focused on. So maybe it's climate, maybe it's health, maybe it's the future of space. Then we work with experts to design competitions that will incentivize people to focus their attention on solving whatever that problem is. Then we have to get the funding we need to actually operate the prize and put up a big enough prize purse to motivate people to try to take on that challenge. Beyond the prize, once the prize is awarded, there's another phase of work, which is, can we actually scale those resulting technologies and get them into the hands of people who will use them to change the world? So that each one of those phases of X Prize's work can be profoundly influenced and affected by Web3 tools and technologies. One of the things that we're working on now that I'm super excited about is we have a prize that's focused on coming up with new tools to restore coral reefs before they go extinct. And for those who aren't familiar with the plight of corals, they're in a lot of trouble and they're super important. Over 1 billion people rely on them for economic livelihood or food. They're where a quarter of the world's biodiversity is in the ocean, and they're beautiful and have their own inherent value. But if we don't build them back and restore the reefs that we're losing, they're on track to go 90% extinct in the next 15 years. So what we were trying to do is launch this prize that will focus people on building corals back and restoring reefs, but it's been super hard to get the funding that we need to launch that competition. The oceans are massively underfunded. Anything related to solving problems in the ocean is massively underfunded. So one of the things that we're working on is using NFTs and working with an incredible artist to produce like a really beautiful and special collection, and then sell the NFTs to collect the funds that we need to launch that prize, and then engage the community of collectors who will be buying the NFTs to come with us along the journey of the prize and be part of this mission to protect one of our world's most precious, environments. So that's like a specific example about how NFTs can come into play for us in terms of building community and launching this specific prize effort. And I don't know if Tara could speak more to some of the other things that are kind of in play for X Prize in the Web3 space.
Yeah, Justin, with the alpha on a project we haven't even talked about yet publicly, so that's kind of fun. You never know what you're going to hear. But we're working on several different Web3 initiatives. The most probably simple would be our Discord, which is a Web2 tool, obviously, but I think a lot of us in here would consider it to be kind of a cornerstone of Web3 community building. And so we've started sort of with that, the links up above. If anyone wants to check it out, it's a great place to learn more about what we're working on as a foundation. And also will be the place where we share a lot of the Web3 initiatives first. And we're also working on some more complicated and interesting interactive gamified tooling for our communities, but I can't talk about that yet. But it's we'll be sharing about it soon. And I think also like when we think about the tools and technology of Web3 being used to make a positive global impact. I mean, like refi kind of immediately comes to mind, and I know we're talking largely about gaming in here, but refi to me is really interesting. The intersection of decentralized finance and regenerative economics, and this is sort of very closely linked with a lot of the work that we do at X Prize. This way of decentralizing and democratizing access and information that is being worked on by a lot of these refi projects. It closely mirrors the sort of way that our competition structure democratizes finding solutions and innovating. And I also think like the tools of Web3, it's definitely the most powerful community building that I've ever experienced. And I started as a musician, and I won the first YouTube award for best music video for a song I wrote in 2006, like when I was just starting out. And I really saw, at that time, how communities can come together so quickly online. And I think that Web3, it just like takes that to the next level. We see this, in both positive and negative ways, with communities mobilizing immediately with such urgency around different ideas, and then like the blockchain aspect allows people to feel real participation and ownership in this community that they're part of, whether we're talking about actually owning assets like NFTs, or we're talking about the ability to validate and attribute ideas to certain individuals. And like all of these blockchain tools really provide us with this way to mobilize communities and provide people a way to like connect so instantly and with a speed and impact that I've never seen before. So I think that's really exciting when we think about a lot of the initiatives that we're launching at X Prize and how we want to mobilize people around those initiatives.
Awesome. Thank you guys both. It's really exciting to see a company that's really trying to make some positive change in the space. There are a few that are doing that, so really, really encouraging and excited to see what you guys are able to do in the world. And then lastly, last individual question is to Jin. So as Mad World's GameFi advisor, how are you currently thinking about the game economy and creator economy within Mad World?
Yeah, thanks. So, first off, like we usually start off, like is this Web3 gaming thing is for entertainment or really to make money, right? And I think the answer to it really is I mean, the game should be fun. That's really the fundamentals. Because a lot of gamify thing was a tool to make money, and then there are a little bit of entertainment aspect to it. But I think the approach that we're really trying to make right now is, you know, game has to be fun, and then we add a little bit of asset aspect and the token model to it. So that's very important to us right now, and how we can bring creator economy. That's really another aspect to it. How we can incentivize creators to come in and to build community. What Tara said, I think mobilizing community with the token incentives or NFT incentives. But one thing I realized recently, working with one of uh, the strong IP in Japan, is I just created Discord, right, for them, and they just come in and say, "Hey, thanks a lot. I wasn't able to share, you know, um, what we do or what they enjoy in daily life." So just providing Discord itself to build a community, fans start interacting. So the entertainment or the game itself, because it's already strong, very strong, um, to the fans. So not necessarily we have to introduce a lot of token aspect or assets, X to ARM perspective. So we're really creating a right balance to the X to ARM and also the game itself, how people can entertain and involved in the community. So I think that's how we see it. And whether Square Enix, Sega Sammy, or those AAA studio from Japan, interacting with them, I think we really share the same value. Like, game has to be fun to start off with.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jen. Um, so moving on, we're going to have another question for everyone in the group. Um, so maybe Nick, why don't you start us off for this one? I feel like I never asked you to go first. What impact do you think AI will have on the metaverse or gaming, both Web 2 and Web 3?
Oof, yeah, that's everything. AI is going to change everything is my answer. No, I think I've already seen, kind of we're just scratching the surface on gaming and AI and the intersection there. NVIDIA has been doing some awesome keynotes on the potential for AI and gaming, and just, starting with NPCs and large language models, and kind of building out to the possibilities for world creation, and just things that, coming from a studio perspective, and seeing how long things take to create. I think it has the potential to completely democratize some of the game creation and creativity, and allow much broader projects to be accomplished by much smaller teams, which will be awesome to see as we kind of move into a more digital environment. And I think my view just on technology in general is, a lot of people are kind of thinking, oh, AI might replace us, and it's possible that there will be many functions that are replaced by AI. And I was a lawyer in a past life, and I know that AI is going to change the legal industry and replace a lot of the functions. But as a basic, premise, I think what technology does is it allows us to accomplish new things. And so, I got into the NFT space on the art side, and I think when Midjourney popped up, for example, there was a kind of a taking a step back and saying, wow, like this looks great, but someone just prompted an engine and created this. But I think the extension of that is, okay, well, that just raises the bar on what's creatively possible. And I think that creatives are going to be able to find whole new ways to really expand upon their ideas. I personally can't wait to see what our top creative minds are able to do with AI in terms of creating experiences. I think, as AR and VR get more integrated into the gaming industry, that has the potential, to kind of combine a few of these new kind of keyword technologies to create experiences that, gamified or not, are just so much more immersive than what we had before. The ability to feel like you're part of a game, and that your actions actually affect world changing type of instancing within the game, I think is what AI potentially brings to the table. And so, yeah, I mean, the tooling right now, I think, is kind of just the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to be seeing from AI in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think gaming is going to be a really easy way to demonstrate the potential of the technology early on, because and I know a lot of the focus of the front-facing AI and the large language models is being placed on gaming. So hopefully that answers the question. I'd be curious, Shrapnel, what are you guys integrating AI in the game? What do you think about how? Because I know you're using a lot of. I'm not sure. Are you building in Unreal? I know there's a lot of extensions, that are coming to Unreal, and plugins that are making using AI a lot easier.
We are building on Unreal, and our chief creative officer, Colin Ferran, has taken ownership of how AI is going to be used in our game and our ecosystem, it kind of across the board. And so the short answer is we're still evaluating, but it would be shocking to me if things like our map editor and our in-game creation tools didn't leverage AI to at least help the creators in our ecosystem along. How much of that ends up in the game is, I think, still way up in the air. Right now, we're just focused on building a really good shooter. But yeah, I think that's probably, I think, like I said, it'll definitely exist within our marketplace creator kind of tool area. And Colin would be the right person to ask about the gameplay integration.
Sounds good. Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot. I was just curious because I know, looking at the game, there's the NPCs and all sorts of potential. So it's gonna be really cool. I think we as developers, I know we're probably in a somewhat similar position. Some of this stuff comes out or gets announced, and it's like, oh wow, like yesterday that wasn't possible. Now it is, and I think that we are in interesting positions as developers to have the flexibility to take risks and incorporate new cool things into the experiences we're building. Tara, I'd be interested, from your perspective as an artist, and especially on the music side. We've been looking at voice AI, and also sound generation AI. Haven't really done a whole ton of stuff with it yet, but have kind of been exploring more from an R&D perspective. I'm curious to know kind of your take on this, and not necessarily just for gaming, but for the Web3 and the creative space, how you think AI is going to affect it.
Oh man, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I before I joined X Prize, I actually was working with a generative music tech AI generative AI music tech company for a couple of years, and I also have consulted with some VCs who are looking to invest in tooling and around generative AI music tech. And so I have so many thoughts on it, from like both the business side and from the artist side. I mean, personally, I kind of jumped right into embracing it. I know there are all kinds of issues that need to be solved, but my personal take on all of this is like, well, it's happening anyway. And a couple of years ago, a few years ago, I my music couldn't be more different from, like, I'm an acoustic singer songwriter and an opera singer. So like I kind of dove into to AI music tech because I found it so fascinating. And like you, I'm like super excited to see, what happens when creatives collaborate with this technology. And there's there's a decision I think that artists have to make, which is it's happening whether you like it or not. And so are you going to dive in and educate yourself and become as familiar as you possibly can with the technology and start playing with it and understanding it and possibly grow beyond what you would be able to do on your own? Are you going to accept that that's a possibility and put the sort of fearful voices aside and just try it, And that was the path that I took. And there are other artists, visual and music artists, that are just like, I don't want to touch it. But I really feel like that's kind of a losing battle if that's the line that you take in this, because it is happening and it's really incredible. I mean, I know a lot of companies that are working with a gaming focus, and the hyper personalization and the customization that's going to be possible, that's already possible, but especially as we see more AI tooling integrated into gameplay, it's going to be wild. It's like, people are going to be playing the same game. It's going to have a totally different experience of it based on your own preferences, and you're going to have so much choice over, how you interact within the world and what kind of world you're experiencing. And so I think that's really excited. I also get really excited about the ways that AI can facilitate communication, because that's, for me as a musician, and also then as a Web3 person working in Web3 and developing Web3 projects. I mean, the whole point of all of this to me is connection. And AI creates a situation where we can communicate, we can speak from something as simple as like speaking different languages. You can instantly connect with someone. You can break down complex concepts so people are able to find common ground. We hear a lot about the sort of doomsday scenarios of all of this, and that's not that always happens. But the flip side of that is the space that I dwell in, and that's the ability to connect and collaborate in this unprecedented way with other people, with our own ideas, with it's a really remarkable technology. It's fascinating, and I'm very excited about all of it.
Yes. Jin, I'm curious your perspective from seeing so many different studios in Japan and AAA studios, what they're starting to do with AI.
Right. So I actually do one project with AI at this moment. Um, and I see, before I even consider bringing Web3 to this project, I started off with this AI, right? What we do is really revolutionizing game balance, because if you build a game, you operate 5, 6, 7 years, you have to keep updating the game balance, right? And then every season, if we update the game balance, people go crazy, right? And sometimes the characters that you evolve, you know that can be weaker because of the game balance adjustment. And it's a huge problem for the game company, and it's sometimes it just completely kills the community or the players or the game itself. So what we focused on for past 2 years really is how we can bring AI to readjust the game balance to make sure that the community is happy. Because you know we as a human being, it's very hard to really have a right game balance all the time, adjust it, and we spend a lot of time to do so, right? So we're doing with a trading card game, because trading card game, their parameters are simpler than other games, and then ChatGPT came out, so we were using sort of a traditional model of AI. So now we're trying to see, if we could adopt the latest sort of AI technology to it. But that's really the problem and potential of AI in the game industry.
Awesome. Thank you. So if nobody else has anything to add to this topic, love to announce the winner of our competition or our giveaway that we're doing this week. So this week we gave away a Raise the Flag Satoshiverse NFT trading card. That trading card collectible will actually give you access to start playing our game. So the winner of that prize is Hodl Hustler or at Mr. Trader MD. Congratulations, and send us a DM and we'll make sure to give you your prize. And then before we wrap up here, we have one kind of fun question, a little more light. So what has been one of your favorite moments in Web3 recently, either personally or in the news? Maybe Justin, do you have anything?
Sure, yeah. This past week, Tara and I were in Barbados. We were meeting up with a group of folks that are crypto entrepreneurs and kind of were early movers in this space. And it's just so inspiring to get to learn about and hear about all the different ways that the folks that we were meeting up with are using blockchain technologies and actively collaborating on reshaping the world. And just the energy of that was really amazing. And I'll share one other thing, which is X Prize has a competition focused on rainforests, and that prize is challenging teams to develop new tools to better understand the life inside of forests and do really rapid biodiversity assessments. Typically, those assessments are very manual, very time consuming, and they're done by scientists from different universities or it's not necessarily in a way that empowers local people, indigenous communities, and so forth. And we just announced last week the finalists of that 5-year-long competition, who they spent 4 years working on tools to do these biodiversity assessments. And one of the finalist teams, called ETH BioDivX, has built their solution on a platform that uses cryptocurrency to provide an economic incentive for local people and indigenous communities to actually take their tools out into the field and do the biodiversity assessments themselves. So what this does is this creates a mechanism where if you're somebody who's, let's say, local to the Congo, you might have conflicting, you would probably rather be doing an assessment of the rainforest than poaching an animal. And now by creating an economic model that facilitates that, it's just leading to this kind of incredible outcome in the world. So just seeing them advance the competition and seeing this really cool way that this team is using a crypto and Web3 technologies to gamify and incentivize folks to do this really incredible conservation work was also super inspiring to me.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything to share of really cool things that happened to them or just things that they've seen in the news?
Yeah, this is again more personal in nature, but the head of blockchain for our company is a guy named Mark Mercuri, and the guy's like a mentat. He's like one of the smartest people I've ever met. He ran blockchain for Microsoft for a while, and then he was some sort of lead technologist at Consensus, the folks that are making MetaMask. The guy's a genius, and but he's never worked in entertainment before. He's never worked in he's worked in enterprise technology for Microsoft for millions of years, since the beginning of time. And he wrote one of these comic books and went to Comic-Con with us and was signing his comic book there with and he brought his son with him. So it was like this really cool thing to observe this incredibly successful business leader just kind of celebrating with like childlike glee at Comic-Con, and something that never would have happened had the gaming industry not decided to start dipping its toe into this blockchain space. So just like it's super cool to see that, and and know that guy is building stuff for us alongside people who have never worked in a professional setting before and have come to Web3 through whatever journey brought them here. It's fun to see and it's fun to interact with.
Awesome. That's super exciting. That's awesome. Anybody else have anything fun to share before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I was gonna actually, Justin literally stole the words out of my mouth. I also was at that event, and I think it's just incredible to see that there's so many people who are still thinking about really, really cool new ways to use Web3 for all sorts of different things, right? For everything from improving the finance industry to really trying to solve big problems, and do good. I think kind of going back a little bit further, I was at, like I said, Consensus and 3XP this year, and I think one of the coolest things is just to see all these really cool games and really high quality games that are getting set to release probably, this year, or have released this year, or going to be releasing later this year. I'm super excited about, what we've been able to accomplish with our team, but also going to these events and seeing projects like Shrapnel and the level of quality they've been able to achieve with what they're building. It really, inspires hope that this kind of next wave of Web3 enabled gaming is going to be very different from the last one, and really have the potential of kind of changing the mainstream view of Web3 gaming that currently exists, that it's just all about the money and not really the foundations of the game and the fundamentals. And seeing projects like Shrapnel, I think, which I'm super glad that you guys were able to join, because I think it is a really good example of just a really high quality game, regardless of the Web3 component. So I think stuff like that, there's probably a handful. I think it's still, unfortunately, right now, a handful. I don't think there's probably more than 25 to 30 games that are of that caliber that are releasing in Web3, but I think it's going to get there. And I think, it'll be 25 this quarter, then 25 next quarter, then, another 50, and then we're going to have, hundreds of games that are utilizing Web3 technology. And I think that's what's exciting, because that's what we need in order to really have a real base of gamers who understand the technology and what it brings. So yeah, I think it's super exciting to see all the development. I guess the other thing is infrastructure. I've said this a couple times on past spaces, but the thing in my mind that has most drastically changed in the Web3 gaming space in the last couple of months has been just the infrastructure that has been released, that is just completely fundamentally changing the capabilities of people building games in Unreal Engine, in Unity, right? In a non-browser based environment, to do blockchain transactions in game, APIs, overlays like what Hyperplay is building. I think there's just, so much new infrastructure coming out that's going to give us the tools that we need to seamlessly integrate Web3, and it's starting to look like a real thing. I think, we probably, this is going to be a year where a lot of experimentation happens, and I'm just excited to see all the creativity that's going to come out of that.
Nick, well, we're at the end of the hour, so maybe just close us out while you're up there.
Cool. Yeah. So again, thank you so much to everyone who joined. I know that some of you were on short notice, and we did have to shuffle things up, but you made it. You're here. For all of you who joined live, thank you. I know that it's an hour out of a busy day, so please do go and check out all the projects here. I think it's, we're very fortunate to be able to get such good guests each week, and really have people take time out of their schedules to talk about what they're building. So please check out what they're building. To all the people who are going to watch the recorded version, thank you. And same thing goes, check out the projects. We'll be doing this again next week. I think next week will be on Tuesday at an earlier time. So for those of you who couldn't make this version, join us next week. But very interested in seeing how everything progresses. I'm super excited to see what Mad World does in the near future. XPRIZE, I'm glad we got to learn about what you guys are building this past week, and super stoked to see how that, how you continue to use Web3. And then Shrapnel, of course, you guys are a great example that we would love to continue to point to as just someone building, a really quality gaming experience. So really grateful to all of you, having you on. Thank you for joining. If anyone has any kind of last words or anything they want to, plug or pitch, feel free, drop it, feel free to say something or drop a link up in the pinned tweets. I can't talk today. This later time of day is wearing on me, but I guess, yeah. I'll wrap it up with that, but please feel free to say any last words, and then we'll end the session.
I want to thank you guys for having us on. It's been really great space and heard a lot of excellent stuff, and nice to meet new people in Web3. And thanks to everybody who was listening. And our Discord's pinned up top, so come check us out if you want to learn more about the work we're doing at XPRIZE. And thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Signing out. See you all next week.
Thank